Hi, I'm Graham from Second Era of Moles, and if you clicked on this video accidentally, 90 seconds is all I ever ask. Welcome to another week that was on Pokemon Masters X. This is the second in the series, so hopefully you watched and enjoyed last week's one. This week we moved on to Unova in the Champion Stadium, or Unova, Inova, Who-Nova? And because we've got to put together a new medal, that meant that you didn't have to choose any parameters for your Champion Stadium. But before we get into how I got through that, I think I'm going to look back over the events that we've got on at the moment. So first of all, the Easter event is still running. That's what I'm spending most of my stamina on. It's that and stocking up on Sync Orbs because I've been running low on those recently. I think that's an event that I'm going to stick with until the end, because in addition to the useful items that you can buy, when you run out of those, and I'm talking about on the Lucario egg, on the Torchic egg, on the Bunnery egg, and on the Togepi egg, once you've got through all of the ones that you want to buy from there, you can then transform your spare eggs into even more Lucario eggs. And you can keep buying three-star bronze power-up tickets. Now those are useful in a couple of ways. If you've got quite a few 3-star units that you've not been able to power up yet, you can move the likes of Misty, Koga, Brock, all of your 3-star units, Oak, if you haven't done already, Oak and Mew. You can move those up the tiers and make them even more useful for both your Champion Stadium and your Battle Villa. If you've already powered up all of your 3-star units, you can take 10 of them and make a silver 4-star ticket. That's always useful, and you can do that up to 20 times per month. So it's not like they don't carry over. So I'm going to be focusing on that, getting as many 3-star tickets as I can. And then if you used up your 4-star tickets, you can take 5 of them and turn it into a 5-star ticket. So it's useful. It's all useful. I promised last week that I would go through my strategy for the Full Force battle, and here it is. The first time round I went in with Xerneas, who's a fairy type, I went in with Sylveon, who's another fairy type, and I went in with Leaf and Venusaur just because it's an amazing unit to have on any team, what with its healing and its poison and its potion. I got into that last time, but it's great to have. And I went through it like a hot knife through butter. Or hot butter through a knife, whichever one you prefer. With Xerneas using Hornleech and Moonbeam, Sylveon doing little bits and pieces with its Draining Kiss and forget what the other one's called. Disarming Voice, that's the one. And Venusaur adding a bit of poison in there, a bit of healing when someone's getting low, a bit of Frenzy Plant when you've got a full bar and those 4-bar moves. Laying the smackdown, and I got through it and none of my pairs fainted. So it was a roaring success, and you would expect that for the first level on it. For level 2 I went in with exactly the same team, and it was not as successful. So Xerneas and Venusaur performed exactly like they had done the previous time. Xerneas doing big damage with Moonbeam and then restoring its health with Hornleech, and Venusaur poison, potion, mega healing, and using sync moves as well to do some extra damage. Sylveon wasn't quite so good. It fainted after the first sync move from the opposition, even though it had full health. And up until that point it had been sort of buffing itself with its 2 trainer moves, and I think it's called, like, Not As Delicate As I Look, and, well, in this one you were, because all it took was 1 sync move and 1-hit KO. So, if you were gonna do that again, I'd go in with a completely different striker. Maybe even I'd choose Mina and Gramble to really bring that attack down. It's rounds of battle, so that one doesn't really take as much effect, because by the time you've done one, it's fainted, and then the next one comes in and you got to do it all over again. So if you had, someone like Barry in there, if you've got him buffed for his sync move, or really any other striker would do a lot better and output a lot more damage. But Venusaur did what Venusaur does and poisoned everyone and lowered all the stats. So I managed to get through that with only Sylveon having fainted. So I was quite happy. And I got the medal for it, and I got the rewards for it. And at the end of the day, that's all you really need. There's nothing in the game rules that said you have to do it a certain way and it has to be absolutely perfect. So we've got one other special event running at the moment, and that's a rerunning of the Rayquaza event. My advice on this one would be don't necessarily rush in and try and get all of the rewards straight away with this one, because it's running until the middle of May. You've got a fair amount of time to work through this one, and with the Easter event still running, you're going to get much more out of the rewards for that than you are out of the Rayquaza one. Having said that, there are still decent rewards in there, so you get 5-star tickets to use on Rayquaza, you get some move coins, which are always useful to have. So far I've only done the bare minimum of it to unlock everything, so I'll be working through that slowly, similar to what I did with the Palkia event, which took a similar length of time. So it's not necessary to go in and be like, oh, I've got to go in and I've got to work through all of the boxes straight away. Calm down, relax, you've got time. And so on to the Champion Stadium. We're moving on to Unova this week, which means a different Elite Four to deal with and new champions. Because it's a new region, you have to go through and you have to collect all 18 types of the medal. You can't do it all in 1 week, so this was a bit of a breather week. So I managed to get through 14 different types in the 5 battles that I did. Could have gone for 15, but I didn't want to put too much pressure on myself. So round 1, your special condition was that the additional effects of moves are more likely to occur. So I choose Caitlyn for this one, and I went in with a team of Misty, Acerola, and Morty with Drifblim. The reason I chose this one was because Acerola has Astonish, which causes flinch, and the additional effects that I've got for some of Misty's moves are an MP refresh. So that means that you've got a chance of getting a move back with it. So yeah, the strategy was flinch, make the middle Pokemon flinch with Acerola and Palossand, get some healing and evasiveness in there with Misty, and have Morty do a shed load of damage. And it seemed to work pretty well. The only mistake that I felt like I made was I used Over Here with Acerola, and that led to a one-shot kill for Palossand, which wasn't a great idea. I didn't need to do it. It was a little bit low on health, so I thought, oh, I'll get some healing done. And it didn't work out for me because it ended up fainting. I didn't want to use Sandstorm either because I didn't have the rest of them set up with Sand Shelter, and I didn't want to be taking that extra damage every round. But for the most part, I was able to keep Reuniclus flinching and then take out the 2 sides with Morty, and only one of my pairs fainted, which was Palossand, so I managed to keep Morty and Drifblim and Misty and Starmie upright. So with Reuniclus flinching most of the time, I went for the 2 sides first. They weren't too tough, they took about a sync move each, maybe an extra move or so, and then I went back into the middle, Phantom Force, Reuniclus, and one more sync move, and that was all she wrote. So round 2, your condition was use sync moves as much as possible. For this one, I went in with a team of Eevee, Rotom, and Zacian. There wasn't anything fancy about this one, it was basically just use sync moves as much as possible, and both Zacian and Rotom have moves that help the sync counter go down. I chucked Misty in there, I chucked Leaf and Eevee in there to get my normal type crossed off the list. I used the first sync with Leaf because it gives a boost to all your stats by 2, which is always useful to have, and then it's just a case of using Breathtaking and Laser Sharp Focus to pull that sync move as close as possible, and then you do huge damage with that because Zacian's a pretty powerful unit and Grimsley's pairs were all weak to steel. As I only had one healer in there, which was Eevee, and Eevee doesn't have Master Healer, or didn't at that point, I was running pretty low on health by the end, but then the final sync move I used to take out the one on the left did a huge amount of damage, so it got me thinking, do I really need to sync with Eevee first, or could I have just gone straight for the damage output? I mean, who knows? Who knows? But I wanted to do it so that I could feel powerful. I wanted the sword in my mouth and coursing through my veins. Because Zacian has a sword in his mouth. Yeah, that's why. So for round 3, your condition was try not to let any of your sync pairs faint. I went into this with Xerneas, Mew and Seismitoad. I went with Seismitoad to get my ground type ticked off, and because Clay can use Endurance. So kind of similar to what I did with Xerneas last week, it's use Horn Leech to keep getting your health back. You use Swift with Mew to lower the stats of the opposition and hope that his passive comes in and raises his evasiveness so he's not taking very much damage. You use Clay's trainer move to get endurance with Seismitoad, and then you use Mudshot to lower the speed. So the main thing with this one is that the sync move hits pretty hard. I mean, that Marshall, man, he can do a blow. Between that, he uses low sweep, which doesn't do very much damage at all. So you use your Horn Leech to recover after the sync move, but then you can use Moonbeam through the rest of it once you've recovered your health, because you know that there's not going to be too much heavy fire coming your way, and you can use that move because the fighting types are weak for it, weak to it even. I decided to take out the side ones again and then take out the middle for the stats loss, and it worked pretty well. Of my team, Clay did faint, and it fainted on the second sync move, which means that endurance didn't kick in, which is a bit of a pain. But when you've only lost one and they've lost two, I kind of take that. So on round 4 I was left with Shauntal, and your condition here is that special attack damage has a reduction to start off with. I went into this one with Rosa and Serperia, Viola and Masquerain. I couldn't remember Viola's name last week, that's why I was only saying Masquerain. And then I went with Dugong in the middle, so that crossed off Grass type, Bug type and Ice type, which I thought was a pretty good deal. And there wasn't really anything fancy about this one either. So you raise special attack with Rosa, you use Trap with Viola, you used Price's trainer moves to raise Dugong's stats. You sync first with Rosa because she's 6x, and then you spam Struggle Bug and Icy Wind with Viola and Dugong, and when you're getting low on move points, you use Time to Energize with Rosa. I gotta say, it's nice to go into the Champion Stadium and use Time to Energize and get a full 6 bars back rather than the usual 4, because that's often a condition I have, is to have the move gauge down by 2 bars. So Trap doesn't do huge amounts of damage in this one, it's more supplemental, and the same with Struggle Bug to reduce special attack as well. But Icy Wind does output a lot of damage, so it's nice to see the Icy Wind come along and blow/freeze all of the other units away. And finally, the champion this week was Alder. The condition that he has is physical attacks damage is down. I chose to have special attack damage down as well. And because it was rock types this week, I went in with Lycanroc and Olivia. I went in with Swanna as my support, and let me just check. I went with Maylene for the fighting type with Medicham, just to tick that off the list. I say that, but Maylene has X attack all as well, which raises your attack, and because Olivia is a physical striker, that really helps. She only has to use one of her own X attacks up. You sync with Swanna first to get that glorious 6x bonus, and then you're using Stone Edge for huge damage in the middle. You're using Maylene's passives, trainer moves, and 2-bar moves. You get Gust with Swanna, and that only takes up 1 bar of damage, and then you get it back afterwards. So your move gauge is always got plenty of bars in it. and by the end I'd not had to use any of my potions, none of my sync pairs had fainted, and on the final sync move that I used, Lycanroc did an astonishing 31k damage, which I looked at and I was like, why can't you do that in every champion stadium? That would make it so easy! So that was week 1 of the Unova Champion Stadium. I used 14 of the 18 types. The 4 I have left are Dark, Fire, Poison, and Dragon. So those are all reasonably easy ones to stick in there. Maybe Dragon not quite so much, but Fire, Charizard, doesn't matter whether it's Leons or Reds. Poison, obviously going to be Koga, maybe Janine in there as well. Get the family together. Dark type, probably going to be Karen. She's always useful for Flinch and Snarl, which lowers special attack. Dragon, I don't know, you might end up using Salamence as a support type, or Iris and Haxorus as your main attacker. You might even think, you know what, I'm going to take my new Rayquaza out for a drive. I do apologise if the audio goes a bit funny on this one. I've been watching Audacity and it's doing crazy things. The audacity of Audacity to be mucking around, man. The audacity of Audacity. So 2 more things left to talk about for this week. The first one is the Battle Villa, which has reopened. I'm only going to talk about the early rounds, and I like to go in there with Clement and Heliolisk. This month I'm going in with Barry for Bubble and his amazing sync move, and Swanna for the 1-bar move. She can also boost speed, which helps Barry if you want to use that in some of the bigger battles where you've got multiple opponents and multiple rounds. I try to save my trainer moves for as long as possible so that my units are more powerful, and then when I come to choose a reward I always go for the health and move point refresh. The last time it was open I only used 6 sync pairs and I think only one of them fainted, so I'm in a pretty comfortable position whatever I do, so I'll probably not spend a lot of time talking about that, just sort of brief little segment here and there. And finally, onto the Legendary Arena, which came in last week. It's Latias, the red one of that pair where they circle around each other forever. And so for the base level 1, I went in with Xerneas, Haxorus, and Houndoom. Houndoom I used for flinching, Latias, I'm going to get so confused with that. Haxorus as the dragon type obviously does a lot of damage in the first wave. Xerneas I was planning to just use as a healer, but I got lucky that when Latias changes its type, it changes to fairy type, so you can use Moonbeam there to do a lot of damage. For the second round I went in with the same team again. It wasn't quite as successful because the damage I was outputting wasn't quite so bad. I didn't focus on the sides very much, which maybe I could have done, take them out more effectively and pave the way for a better team to come in second. But, you know, Xerneas was still doing a fair amount of healing. Haxorus stayed up for a fair amount of time as well. Didn't really get many flinches in with Houndoom, I think because I was more focusing on using Snarl to lower special attack, so that's another option that you could explore is do a bit more flinch damage. And then when they all fainted, I went in with a team of Swanna, Viola and Leon. I've not really used Leon much since I pulled him, other than for the event, and that was only for a couple of battles each day, so mainly I wanted to see what he could do. And I was quite happy with the results because there was still more than 1 bar of Latias's health to go, and I managed to do it with just 2 teams. So yeah, Leon definitely was worth pulling at that time. And then on to level 3, I started with the same team I finished the last one with, so Leon, Swanna and Viola. For this one I did pretty much half and half, so half of the damage with my first team, half of the damage with my second team. Striker pose really comes in useful. That free 4-bar move is a lifesaver at times, although with a team that has Viola and Swanna in, they're not really using the move gauge very much at all. Swanna only has, if you're using Gust with Swanna, that's only a 1-bar move. Struggle Bug and Infestation are only 2-bar moves, and then you can raise the speed as well. But hey, every little helps. And then when that team had all fainted, I went in with the Pallet Town trio, so Signasuit Blue, Signasuit Leaf, and Signasuit Red, Blastoise, Charizard, and Venusaur. And you've got to be careful when you get into that second bar with Latias, because if it raises its stats too much, it gets invulnerable and you can't do any damage. So I didn't realise that, and I was sat there thinking, well, why is my Blast Burn not doing anything? This is outrageous! But it was only when I started hitting a few Razor Leafs or Frenzy Plants with Leaf that those stats started coming down. It lost that invulnerability and I was able to start doing a bit more damage. I actually restarted this stage with my Pallet Town trio because I'd forgotten that Leaf had potions, so I hadn't done any healing, and I was getting a bit unlucky with Latias's evasiveness, so Razor Leaf wasn't hitting, so that was quite unfortunate. But that second time I managed to do it without any of the 3 of them fainting. Obviously Blue getting endurance is always a plus for the entire team. You do definitely want someone on your team who can debuff the opposition, and you've got quite a few options there. So Mew is always a good option. He has Unfortuitous 9, which is always going to take something down. Karen I've already mentioned, lower special attack. Viola, lower special attack. Bryson has the Haze move, where you can remove all stat raises from the opposition. Grimsley with Lipard has Snatch, which means you can take those stat raises for yourself, which is always good. Other ones you could put in there, you could put in Kukui to lower the defense. You could put in Janine, as long as you've got another poisoner in there, to do Venom Drench, and that will take down attack, special attack, and speed. You can use your Egg Nidoqueen if it's a tech one, because I think that also has a Venom Drench. So you've got options in there. And so I managed to get all of the medals for Latias to go with all of the medals I've got for the previous Legendary Arenas. So that was a good one. Invulnerability did catch me by surprise. I really wasn't expecting that at all. So to see your attacks doing 0 damage is always a bit of a surprise. But you know, you live, you learn, you come in with a different strategy next time. So next week, if you manage to get all 18 types used in your Champion Stadium, you're back onto Masters mode, and we'll be talking about how to get 7.5k points for that. Maybe do a bit more on the Battle Villa, maybe look a bit more about the Rayquaza event. But yeah, that was the week that was Unova Week 1. Week was, one was, who was, you was, I was, no I wasn't. So this is well beyond the 90-second mark, and if you've made it this far, thank you very much, well done. If you're enjoying this series, please let me know if there's anything you'd like to see excluded or anything you don't like in it. Also, let me know. I'm going to be doing another video for it next week, so keep an eye out for that. But thank you very much for watching this one, and goodbye.